I still remember the day I met David. He was charming, witty, and had this smile that just lit up the room. But what struck me the most was how genuine he seemed. We met through mutual friends, and by the end of the night I felt like I'd known him forever. A whirlwind romance quickly followed. We went on spontaneous road trips, shared late-night talks about our dreams, and it didn't take long before he proposed. Life felt like a fairy tale, and I was the princess. But fairy tales, as I would soon learn, are sometimes just beautiful lies waiting to crumble. David had a twin brother, Ethan. They were identical in almost every way, except in personality. While David was outgoing and lively, Ethan was more reserved, almost mysterious. He kept to himself most of the time and had an intensity in his gaze that made me a bit uncomfortable. Still, he was family, and I wanted to make an effort to get along. After a year of marriage, David's work schedule began to consume him. He had recently been promoted, which meant more money, but also late nights and occasional weekends away. It started with a few missed dinners, then missed weekends. Eventually, I felt like I was sharing my life with a ghost. One evening, while David was away on yet another business trip, Ethan dropped by unexpectedly. He looked tense, almost hesitant. "Mind if I come in?" he asked, standing awkwardly at my doorstep. "Of course," I said, trying to sound casual, though I felt a strange unease. Ethan had never come over alone before, and I couldn't help but wonder what had brought him here. We sat down in the living room, and he immediately went silent. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spoke. "I wanted to talk to you about David," he said, his gaze fixed on the floor. "There are things he hasn't been honest with you about." My heart sank. Thoughts of infidelity flashed through my mind. I had ignored the late nights, the business trips, the vague explanations. But hearing it from Ethan felt like confirmation of my worst fears. I forced myself to stay calm. "What things, Ethan?" He hesitated, his eyes darting to the side. "David, he's been struggling. There's someone else, but it's not what you think. He's not having an affair, but he's close to it." The weight of his words crashed down on me. Close to it? What did that even mean? "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, barely holding back tears. Ethan's face softened. "Because you deserve to know, and because, well, I care about you too." His words sent a chill down my spine. I wasn't sure what he meant, but I didn't have the energy to analyze it. I thanked him for telling me and spent the rest of the night in bed, replaying every moment with David in my mind, searching for signs I might have missed. The next few weeks passed in a blur of tension and silence. David returned home, but something had changed. He seemed distant, more secretive, and whenever Ethan came around, he was overly polite, almost guarded, as though he knew I was aware of some hidden truth. One evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, David approached me with an unusual expression. He seemed anxious, fidgety even, which was unlike him. "I need to talk to you about something," he began, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. "I know I've been distant lately, and I want to make it up to you." My heart leapt, hoping he was finally ready to reconnect. "So, I had an idea," he continued. "How about you spend the weekend with Ethan? I know he's been lonely lately, and you two seem to get along well. I think it would be good for all of us." I froze. The suggestion was so bizarre that I wasn't sure I'd heard him right. "Spend the weekend with Ethan?" I repeated, hoping he'd correct himself. "Yes, just a change of pace," he said, forcing a smile. "He has this lake house he's been working on, and I thought it might be nice for you to get some time away from the city. Relax, you know?" The idea made me uncomfortable, but a part of me thought maybe this was David's way of mending our strained relationship. Maybe he thought a change of scenery would help me clear my mind. and I could return ready to face whatever issues lay between us. Reluctantly, I agreed. The lake house was isolated, tucked away in the woods and surrounded by towering trees. It was beautiful, serene even, but something about it felt off. Ethan greeted me warmly, though he seemed just as tense as I was. We spent the evening chatting about random topics, neither of us mentioning David. I tried to act natural, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something unsaid between us. As the night wore on, I decided to get some rest. Ethan had shown me to my room and I settled in, hoping for a peaceful night's sleep. But around midnight, I heard faint murmurs outside my door. Curiosity got the best of me, and I quietly opened the door, peeking out into the dimly lit hallway. I could hear Ethan talking on the phone, his voice low but urgent. "She agreed to come," he was saying, his tone laced with frustration. "But I don't think she suspects anything. This was your idea, remember? You're the one who wanted this." My heart pounded as I realized he was talking to David. A wave of panic surged through me. I didn't know what they were planning, but it was clear that I had been lured here under false pretenses. I quietly closed the door, trying to keep my breathing steady as I racked my brain for a way out. The next morning, Ethan was his usual self, acting as though nothing had happened. He suggested we go for a walk by the lake, but I declined, making an excuse about not feeling well. The tension was suffocating, and I knew I couldn't stay another night. As I was packing up to leave, Ethan appeared in the doorway, watching me with an unreadable expression. "Leaving so soon?" he asked, his voice almost mocking. "Yes, I remembered I have some things to take care of at home," I replied, forcing a smile. He took a step closer, blocking my path. "You know, you were always too trusting. That's why David thought this would work." "What would work?" I asked, my voice shaking. He smirked. "David wanted to know if you'd fall for it. He wanted to know if you'd actually spend a weekend alone with me. And you did." I stared at him, my mind racing. This had all been some sick test? Some twisted game? "You're lying," I whispered, backing away. But Ethan just shrugged. "Believe what you want, but now you know the truth. David never trusted you, and he never will." I couldn't process what he was saying. I felt a mixture of betrayal, anger, and shame. I had fallen right into their trap, and now I was left with nothing but the bitter realization that my husband's love had been nothing more than an illusion. I left the lake house that day, cutting all ties with both David and Ethan. In the end, I realized that I didn't need to pass anyone's tests. I deserved love built on trust, not deceit.